Hi, I'm Craig Lahoulier, and one of the things that I'm going to demonstrate today is my dense planting method for seedlings that a lot of people have heard about. A couple of things. What I use are these stiff 50 cell packs that I get from Johnny's. They're nice because they actually last for years, and but I find that I can fit a lot of seeds in a cell. They're about 1.5 inches across. As you can see, I've got all my different seeds lined up because one of the most important things in all of this is good record. I use Metromix 360 for my growing medium, and I pack dry, and I'll show how that works. And so let's get started. First thing I do is, once I've got that label, is do a dry fill on the pots. So this is Metromix 360, which is great stuff. It's every now and then you find a few sticks in it, but it's pretty light and fluffy. And there are other seed starters you can certainly use. I've settled on this really because I end up using this for my transplanting as well. So what I do is just go to this, the top, so load it into the center cells, spread it out. My friend Lee always mentions how fast I am at transplanting and doing stuff, so I'm actually not going faster than I ordinarily would. This is pretty much how I do it. We're not going to, of course, record the whole thing because it would take a long time to seed all these, but what I'll have Sarah do is I'll plant a few, and then I'm going to plant the rest, and then we'll tape a little bit more when I show how I finish things off. So what I like to do is make sure that I get everything at the same level. I do a very shallow planting, but by doing it this way, I can make sure that the seeds will pretty much germinate at the same time. So once I get all the cells full, I just kind of rub my hand across, see if there's any little sticks there. So that flat's preloaded. Now this is hot water. Why I use hot or warm water is because sometimes these mixes, if they're really dry, can repel. So what I do now is just wet the cells really well. And if I wet these sufficiently today, you'll notice that once we get to the end of it and I'm covering up the planted flat with saran wrap, that will be the only watering that I really have to do until the seedlings start to germinate. And so I go horizontally, then vertically. And one of the things I found with these flats is that they tend to dry out along the edges, so I make sure that I really wet them well along the edges of each of the cells, particularly the outside cells. So if you pick that up now, that's pretty heavy. Since this is going to go up in my office, I just wipe the dirt off, and it doesn't take long for the water to soak in. And I just go along each cell and tamp it down so that there's only maybe 1/8 inch or so in each cell. Ouch. I'm going to kill myself on that light. Where I am actually is on my planting table in the garage, and once I'm done with all my planting, the trays, once the seedlings have germinated, will go. I'll lower these lights down, and the plants will live out here during the cool weather. So this is all ready to go, and I'll look at my list. Number 1, which is in the lower left corner, is 1884 purple. I want to plant 20. I want to plant 20 seeds of this. I find that I will plant up to 40 seeds in a cell. So one of the things I do is separate them, and I just start planting uniformly around that cell. 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. That's 20 seeds. I have 2 more on my hand. I'll plant them just in case we get low germination. Now I'll plant one more. So this is Acres, West Virginia, in vial 0923. One of the things you really have got to make sure you do is the numbers can look pretty similar after you've done a few of these, so make sure you don't mess your codes up, or else you'll be surprising either yourself or your customers with seedlings that don't look well. don't look like what you expect them to be. I'm just scrunching the seeds up to separate them to make them easier to plant. So when I saved these and dried them, I obviously didn't do a good job. Now these I want to plant 30 seeds of. This is a pretty popular variety. The other thing you've got to watch for is not allowing seeds to spread into neighboring cells, so don't go too fast. 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, 2, 3, 4, 5, 26, 27, 28, and you can see how that was a double seed. So if you take a look at that cell, you'll get a sense of how they're distributed. And what I'm going to do now is continue planting. Okay, so now we've got all of the seeds planted. And as you can see, we have 50 cells. And that gives you an idea on what the cells look like. So there's somewhere, some of the varieties have 15, there's a few with 20, and there's a few that actually have 40 seeds in them. So really, when you think about it, the nice thing about this is you've got the potential for 1,500 plants or more in about a 1 by 2 foot space. Pretty cool, hey? As I showed you a little while ago, we got 50 flats with the seeds. Now we're going to cover them up. So what I do is I get a cup of nice loose Metromix, and then this I think is an important part. So I just take a pinch and I just sprinkle them over the seeds until you can't see them anymore. So this is a lot different than what they tell you on packages of seeds, where they say to plant the tomato seeds a 1/4 of an inch or whatever. So really all I'm doing is just essentially hand sifting very light Metromix just to cover the seeds. And what I'll do is finish this and then come back and show you what the last... we've got all the seeds covered up, and what I do is just lightly tamp. So I'm tamping down the cells here to firm the soil. I'm not pressing down really hard, I'm just getting an even surface. And again, what I want to get it to so I'm not seeing any seeds. Brushing out the edges here, because again, this is going up in my room. I don't want to drag Metromix all over the floor. So the last thing I do is I get a spray bottle and just very lightly from a distance at first, because I don't want to get the seeds, I don't want to disturb the mix and then get the seeds going everywhere. There's a lot of water that I wet the mix with, and that's going to wick upward, so I don't have to wet the top all that much. So the last thing I do is get some saran wrap, get a piece that's a little bit longer than the tray, and then just very loosely lay that over, and the water will help it stick. And then that goes up in front of the window, and I'll carry this upstairs later and show you where it's going to sit. I'll put this on heat mats in front of a south-facing window. These seeds will now start germinating in 2, 3, maybe 4 days, depending on the freshness of the seed, and really that's because of the very shallow depth. So some of these seeds that I'm growing were collected and saved in the year 2000, and I've found that tomato seed, even at 10 years up to 15 years, has no trouble germinating. So what we can do when these start coming up, we'll do another clip to see what they're looking like, and the interesting part I think will be in mid-March when we start transplanting, and I'll show people how I bust apart those cells of 30 to 40 plants and safely get them into 4-inch pots. Okay, so here we are, and I just finished planting this flat of seedlings right here. I'm not going to get them on the heat mat yet, because right now I've got a flat of peppers that was just planted a few days ago, and you can see that we've got some good germination coming with eggplants and peppers under this one. In front of the window are a mix of different lettuces and some spinach on the right there in that 5 by 6 foot grid. And right there we've got some chard, and I don't know if you can see the colors there. That's bright lights. And also some red Russian kale, arugula, and some beets.